So thank you, Secretary of State. It was very informative. Now we are going to give a place to the next panel. And this panel is a panel that puts our national quantum strategy in the context of the international cooperation. We are going to hear how other countries of the OECD will have their visions for the development and deployment of quantum technologies strategies. And for this session, I would like to welcome on stage Mrs. Elisabeth Thomas-Renaud, head of the OECD Emerging Digital Technologies Unit and main responsible for the Global Forum of Technology. And I will let her introduce the speakers that I believe that they are here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me on stage. We'll settle in and then get started. Have we got Pascal?
Yeah.
There we are. Perfect. Merci. So we've had a lot of information about quantum so far. Some think it's very soon, some think it's very far. I think we have so much across the technologies that we could arguably say we're probably where AI was 10 years ago, at least to say that this is a technology with a high stakes frontier. So to follow up the presentation you just heard on the most recent of the national strategies, we're now going to discuss a range of national strategies on quantum technologies in this panel. So joining me to do so, we'll have on the screen, speaking very shortly, J.B.V. Reddy, who is the head of the Quantum Technology Cell in the Department of Science and Technology in India. Dr. Reddy is joining us remotely, so he will be speaking in just a moment. On stage with me, at the far left, we have Josh Vedder, the Deputy Head of the Office for Quantum Technologies at the Department of Science and Innovation and Technology in the UK. Next to Josh, we have Sophie Lindskov Hansen, who is the Chief Quantum Expert for the Danish Tech Ambassador in the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs of Denmark. And then we have Pascal Maillot, who's Deputy Head of Unit in the High Performance Computing and Quantum Technology Unit of the European Commission. And right next to me, we have Masahiro Horibe, who is the Deputy Director, Global Research and Development Center for Business by Quantum AI Technology in Japan. Thank you very much for joining us. So before I turn to our panel discussion, I just want to quickly set the scene a little bit on what's happening globally in terms of national quantum strategies. So recognizing their strategic importance, a growing number of countries are developing quantum strategies. And these are to coordinate investments, talent development, infrastructure, and international cooperation. The UK was first, dedicating a quantum national strategy in 2014. The EU followed in 2018. 19 countries and NATO have since followed suit, including Japan and India in 2020, Denmark in 2023, and of course, Spain with their announcement today. As our Secretary General mentioned earlier, 14 of these countries are OECD member countries. In the past 10 years, we've seen governments worldwide announce an estimated $44.5 billion in investments in quantum science and technology. OECD's got forthcoming work that's going to provide an overview of national strategies and policies, and it will include a quantum technologies policy database. And my colleagues have found 236 policies across 40 countries. So there'll be a rich space to investigate more, and we've seen a lot of activity evolving. The level of investment has expanded. Governments are navigating the breadth of these policy considerations. And that means balancing competition and cooperation, considering standards and governance, including ethical foresight, anticipating risks, and of course, including divides, which we'll also be speaking about today. And doing all of that, we know our Secretary of State and ministers have left because they're busy with all that and trying to ensure strategic alignment with their broader digital and industrial policy agendas. So this is a big piece of work. So let's hear more about how they're doing it and explore together how we can help each other. So JB, I'm going to start first with you. India, you've announced an investment of 700 million euros in quantum research over the next 8 years until 2031. Can you give us a bit of insight on the priorities of your national strategy, and what impact are you expecting it to have on your economy? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. I would like to give you details of the National Quantum Mission of Government of India. I hope are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see my screen now?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Quantum technology is one of the 9 missions of the national importance. This mission is being driven by the Prime Minister's Science, Technology, Innovation Advisory Council. Department of Science and Technology, DST, Government of India is implementing this mission along with the other key ministries. As you know, quantum technologies have a critical application potential in several sectors and will create a significant impact on economic growth. For example, in communication sector, it can improve the data security. In health sector, it can enable less invasive, more accurate diagnostics and considerably increase the speed of drug discovery. In finance sector, it can enhance the security of transactions, increase the speed of big data analysis, and support the financial sector. NQM has 4 verticals: quantum computing, communication, sensing and metrology, materials, and devices. These are some of the key technology domains. NQM has specific deliverables. For instance, under quantum computing, target has been set to develop quantum computers with 1000 qubits. For quantum communication, target has been set to develop secure quantum communication, both satellite and fiber-based networks. Department of Science and Technology established 4 thematic hubs and coordinating with the technical groups to drive the innovation. These T-hubs are responsible for technology development, capacity building, supporting startups, industry partnership, and international collaboration. I would like to give a glance about the thematic hubs and technical groups. Computing Hub has been established at IISc Bengaluru, coordinating with the 4 technical groups. Communication Hub established at IIT Madras in association with CDOT, coordinating with 5 technical groups. Sensing and Metrology Hub established at IIT Bombay, coordinating with the 2 technical groups. Materials and Devices Hub established at IIT Delhi, coordinating with 3 technical groups. And these T-hubs were formally launched on 30th September 2024. These T-hubs brought in about 150 researchers from 43 institutions across India. DST is very keen to facilitate the growth of startup ecosystem and make them active part of technology delivery. T-hubs will create the national facilities and open to the startups, and also T-hub will provide technology and business mentoring and equity support. NQM developed exclusive guidelines for effectively onboarding and supporting startup since it is in nascent stage and require huge investment, and supported 8 startups in first phase and were launched on 26 November 2024. DST intends to engage the industry stakeholders to enable technology transition. T-Hubs will allow industry to access the national facilities and co-develop the technologies, eventually develop a revenue sharing model. As a part of NQM, Department of Science and Technology, he initiated quantum awareness program among students, researchers, industry professionals, and policymakers. DST intends to build capacity and contribute to policy development. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to turn to our panel now. Josh, UK was the first country to put out a national strategy, and then you followed through with an additional next step. And the UK has been focusing a lot on the importance of public support. Can you share a little bit about the challenges you've had scaling quantum technologies from research to commercial applications? We've heard a lot about the importance of that, and specifically the role of public-private partnerships that you've been pursuing.
Cool, happy to do so. First, very happy to have brought the UK weather here to Madrid. So in terms of our own National Quantum Technologies Programme, it is a success story, but I want to talk a little bit about the ingredients behind that success. So first of all is around research. So we spent £1.1 billion over the first 10 years of the programme, and 45% of that was focused on foundational research. And what this meant is that we now have strengths across all quantum technology areas, meaning that we're now in a strong position to down-select in the future when the time comes. The second key ingredient for me is around supporting prototyping and leveraging our academic institutions. So we created quantum research hubs, each specializing in different quantum technology areas. And the purpose of these hubs is to bridge the gap between research and application, but doing so hand in hand with industry. And then the final ingredient to success is having long-term missions. This is really important. So it's having a long-term goal and a goal that you'll know that will survive between governments like ours has. So we have 5 national missions, and we also have significant funding behind those missions, significant grant programs like the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. And it has worked. So this Industrial Challenge Fund, since 2018, has attracted £700 million worth of industry investment, which is really exciting. Out of the £1.1 billion we've spent, we far exceeded that in the terms of private capital we have injected into our ecosystem. So overall, the UK is number 2 in terms of the size of our ecosystem, number 2 in terms of the amount of capital we attract. But we are facing significant headwinds in commercialization, and we've already mentioned this in the policy primer, firstly around skills, secondly around infrastructure, and third around access to finance. So let's take skills as a first example. When we think of skills, we think of quantum engineers, we think of physicists, software developers. But actually, as companies begin to scale up, they need to have legal support, they need to have procurement support. So suddenly you're not only having competition from within the sector itself, but you're competition across multiple different sectors for that same talent. We've recognized this, and we've started to inject serious money into this. So last year, £100 million went towards quantum skills. So we have 5 new centers for doctoral training, and just last week we announced new fellowships, new apprenticeship programs. But this isn't enough. So we know those leaving school today won't enter the quantum ecosystem for another 5, maybe 10 years' time. So it's important that we do invest today for the future. And it can't be a zero-sum game either. We heard this mentioned earlier with the Spanish strategy about the poaching of talent. But actually, I don't see it that way, that we need to have international collaboration, and we need to shore up our domestic talent as well. The other area I wanted to talk about is around infrastructure. So we have some really hard choices ahead. No single country has all the funding we need to support all the infrastructure we need for every aspect of quantum technologies and supply chain. We need to make some really hard choices. We've started to do that. We have a National Quantum Computing Center, which has multiple different modalities. This is an international program. If you look across the test beds, there are different countries who have their quantum computing test beds hosted in the UK, in Oxford. However, we do have those hard choices ahead, and we'll start making those decisions through the course of this year. The final area is around access to finance, that all-important capital for scale-up, and how do we unlock that? For those that say government doesn't have a role anymore, absolutely we do. So first of all, we're looking at government becoming a bigger customer of quantum technologies. This is really important. If you have a government contract, this helps draw in additional capital. So we're looking at ways we can, for example, have quantum sensors within our hospitals, whether we can look at quantum PNT on board our trains, on board our aircraft. So there's all of these exciting applications that government can make most of to deliver better public services. And the other area I want to touch on is unlocking our pension funds. So there's a huge amount of capital in there. We've just announced our National Wealth Fund, which has £27 billion worth of investment behind it. And this is about supporting our broader government goals, but will go towards emerging technologies as well. So this is a really big factor for us, is unlocking that capital to enable companies to scale up. If you looked at some of the capital raises last year, they were eye-watering numbers. So we need to make sure we catch up with this. So I've taken too long, perhaps, but I'll stop there and just set out again those 3 key challenges for me. So skills, infrastructure, access to finance. All of these 3 need international collaboration. We just can't do this alone.
Well, thank you for, it was an excellently comprehensive response. So there's lots for us to all grab onto as we carry on the conversation. Sophie, I'm going to turn to you now. Perhaps you can follow on with some experiences from Denmark, some of the lessons learned, how you're facing technological and financial challenges with this technology.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to. So first of all, I'm going to echo a lot of the things that Josh said in terms of what are the important aspects to be focused on. But I just want to introduce the strategy that came out from Denmark in 2023. It came out in 2 parts, where the first part is focused on fundamental research, and the second part is more focused on the commercialization. And what I really want to sort of advocate is for the acknowledgement that both of these parts are really, really important. And actually, we have a model in our strategy. It's like a tree, where the first part of the strategy is like the stem, and the second part of the strategy are the leaves. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that both parts are really, really important. Sometimes we tend to overlook the foundational research a little bit in our eager to sort of get the products to market. But I think it's important to acknowledge the fact, and also to respect all the work that's being done at the foundational level, even though it might not be as mission-driven and as close to market as we would sometimes like. And the second thing I would like to emphasize in the strategy is this whole of government approach that we have. So instead of being very narrow-minded and looking only at the science or only at the commercialization, we have engaged the whole government, and we actually work closely together. And I think this is really, really important to have this holistic approach, making sure that we don't overlook important aspects of bringing this technology forward. And then another thing that I've sort of heard when I talk to the quantum ecosystem is that it's really, really important to have funding possibilities that are not too rigid. Sometimes you have to live up to a number of criteria in terms of academia-industry collaborations, what type of consortia you can set up, what TRL level you have to start on, what TRL level you have to end up on, all these things. I think sometimes we have to sort of relax the constraints a little bit and let the researchers and the industry users sort of mold their projects and not be rejected because it doesn't fit into the exact box that this funding scheme was intended to support. I think that's really important as well. And then another thing that I found to be really, really important, and this has always been like a hobby horse of mine when we talk about quantum technology, and that's balancing the push that we have from the development of the technology by creating a pull from the potential end users. And bridging that gap can be really, really difficult, both in terms of getting the technology to a point where you can actually deploy it, but also getting sort of the end users to be ready to accept the technology. They have to know that it's out there. And because it's a totally new technology, they have to ask themselves new questions. So for example, the drug discovery experts, they have to think in new ways. Like, what problems have we never looked at because we couldn't? Suddenly now maybe we have the opportunity to look at those problems. So sort of maturing the end users to think about their problems in a new way with this new tool, I think is really, really important. And to that end, we have a number of initiatives. So we support a lot of these demonstrator and test facilities that will also bring awareness to the non-specialized communities. And we have Quantum Denmark, which is an initiative. It's located at the university, but it's for early startups, and it's really to sort of get good collaborations and knowledge sharing between the researchers, the startups, larger companies, and also the investors, so to get the whole chain sort of activated. And then I also want to just mention that we last year published a use case catalog where we take 16 very, very concrete use cases, break it down, say what's the technology, what's the problem that it's solving, and when will it be sort of commercially available. And I think this is a really, really good way of saying that quantum technology, it's not only witchcraft, and it's not only happening in the basements of the university, it's something that we can actually see that it can solve society-relevant problems. So that's one of the things that I really want to advocate for, is sort of making this gap really, really sort of helping to bridge the gap between the technology and the end users.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Pascal, I'm going to turn it to you now. The European Union's taken this very coordinated approach with the flagship, and you have an important role in trying to ensure a coherence within the Union. Can you tell us a little bit about the activities that are going on and how you're doing that?
First, well, thanks for inviting me today for this panel in Madrid. And you mentioned coordination and coherence between the development of the member states. The two ministers this morning, Oscar Lopez and Diana Moran, talked about it very clearly. The objective is not to make competition between the member states in the field of quantum technologies, but more have a coherent development. And the reason is very simple. The challenges ahead for quantum technologies are very big, are huge. No single member state will be able to lead in this technology, this very specific technology alone. So that's why, and that's what we are doing currently with member states, we work on a strategy for all the different member states to work in a coherent way and avoid useless competitiveness, if I can call it like that. We are now working with the different member states to set up an EU quantum strategy. It looks like I can't get into details because it will be announced by the Commissioner in the coming weeks. But what I can tell is indeed to have a coherent development and focusing on all the aspects of the ecosystem. It's really not to focus only on research or only on commercialization, but to go in all the fields, going from research, industry, but also investment. We are very good in the EU in public investment compared with the other regions of the world, but as it often happens in technologies, we are lagging behind in private investment. So we must also reinforce the part of research, investment, and not forgetting, obviously, the skills. Bringing more students to the field of quantum technologies, but not only students, also engineers from classical technologies who would like to migrate to more quantum technologies. This will be one of the points of the EU strategy too. So it will be announced in some weeks. You already know what it will be about, the full development of ecosystem. But for the moment, I still can't give you the concrete actions that will be announced for this EU strategy, but it will come soon.
Good to know. We will watch this space. Masahiro, we've talked about the importance of importance of the different pillars, you're focusing a lot on the industrialization of quantum technologies. And in Japan, there is this clear vision that there's benefits for these technologies to bring to Japanese society. Can you tell us a little bit about the efforts that you're doing to develop the industrial ecosystem and perhaps share some insights about the policy efforts of Japan?
Yeah. Thank you very much for these opportunities. And in the past, the Japanese government released two type of the quantum strategies and one visions and one measures. And the government is update the quantum strategies every year. And then, so recently, since now it's a quantum ecosystem now is discussing this years. And then, so I'd like to back to the history in our visions. And in April 2022, the government announced the vision for the quantum future societies. It's as a vision of the future society realized by quantum technologies. This vision is set the 3 goals to be realized by the 2030s. And in particular, the goal of the 10 million users in Japan is extremely ambitious. So this number of the 10 million is equivalent to about 10% of Japanese populations. So this number represents the threshold at which technology will explode into the society usage. Then once the user number over this threshold, the quantum technology will begin to use in the ANET. And so for the realization of this situation, the quantum technology must be implemented into the existing social infrastructures. And the users must be able to use the quantum technologies without being aware of the quantum technologies. Now, so and the next is in 2023, it's government released a strategy of quantum future industry development. It is almost like as a roadmap for the implementation of the quantum technologies. And furthermore, last 2 years, it's the measure of a global activity was announced. Its global activity is very key to create the quantum ecosystems. And now it's quantum ecosystem creation is being discussed in Japan. And for quantum ecosystem, it's human resources and access to the R&D infrastructure and the business opportunities, and then the funding are critical. And in the future, it will be necessary to increase the international mobility of the human resources and in the world, and then the access opportunity to testbed and business opportunities in the world. And the key will be includes the funding, not only from the national government side, but also from the private sectors, private investment. And parallelly, it's recently one ministry, the Ministry of the Economy, Trade, Industry, they invested about 1 billion euros for the quantum computing industrializations for the 6 years from 2022. It's now, so this is our industrial activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. We don't have a huge window of time. We're using a little bit from the technical break that I think we're not going to take. But I do want to do another round just on the relevance of the international cooperation. I know we're talking national strategies, but there isn't such thing, I think, nowadays as a technical, as a strategy for a technology where you just don't factor that. So can we just, I'm going to let you self-select who wants to come in first, but Let's talk a little bit about how that fits into your strategy and its importance.
Okay, I can give this a go. First, a message to our European Commission colleagues in the development of a strategy. The door is open, so certainly the UK is very interested. In terms of international collaboration, so I've talked about this before, no single country can do this alone. We talked about skills, and we need to do more to support researcher exchanges, to do international summer schools, look at all the interventions out there to enable the movement of people across our borders. Secondly is around infrastructure. So I mentioned that the UK and other countries, we don't have the funding to build all the infrastructure we need, but is there better coordination we can do? So do we each need to have a quantum computing center, let's say? Perhaps we do, but we should ask those difficult questions and then negotiate open access to each other's infrastructure and leverage the power of each other's capabilities. And the third one is around investment. Investment really does cross borders. And there's more we can do to work with venture capitalists to upskill them on quantum technologies. We know that they look for short time frame when it comes to returns. So we need to look at what are those interventions we can deploy to help alleviate that. And I think part of that will be government being quite a clear customer of those technologies as well to help drive that investment. But I'll pass on to the rest of my colleagues.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. So I think from Denmark's side, we're also, I think everybody's acknowledging the fact that we cannot do this alone. And despite having a very, very strong quantum heritage with Niels Bohr, we're still a small country, so definitely we cannot do it alone. That's also why we have, in the strategy, set up an international quantum hub. And what we do is we work to sort of promote Denmark's interest and also work internationally in bilateral, multilateral, and also like regional groups. We have a number of innovation centers in different countries trying to sort of get a closer connection with other relevant countries. And also I want to underline the fact that we also spend a lot of time framing sort of these memorandum of understanding. So we have these agreements specifically on the development of quantum technology with a number of like-minded quantum nations, UK included, which I think is really actually very helpful in sort of paving the way for these international collaborations and making sure that we are on the same page. We want to go in the same direction, in the same manner. I think that's been really helpful.
Am I right? Yes, I completely agree with yours. And so I mentioned my talk is the mobility of the workforce and so startup is very key, important to create the quantum ecosystems. And so in Japan, we are creating one quantum computing hub. I really know that Denmark and the UK are the same. And so each country have to set up the hub. And the next stage is we are linking the all hub internationally. And as a result, it's a workforce easy to move to the other countries, other areas, and they start the business, and start the new research activities, and so on. And so I hope to make some MOU with each hub in each countries now. So that this I completely agree with yours. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Please.
That's true, you're right. In the different elements that I mentioned for the upcoming strategy, I forgot to mention the international collaboration, which is also a very important aspect. President von der Leyen mentioned that the Commission under her presidency should be a geopolitical one. And as you mentioned, Sophie, with like-minded countries, we indeed make a specific collaboration on quantum technologies. For UK, you said the door was open. UK is now associated to Horizon Europe and is eligible to participate to our quantum calls, even our restricted ones. So it's that's only already one point. Japan, we are having a common call and a common collaboration. It will be signed by a minister very soon and by our vice president, a common collaboration in quantum technologies. This is the first step, but I'm sure there will be other ones. And there are also other countries approaching the EU to have international agreement to work together in quantum technologies. Of course, it's evaluated case by case, but certainly we are not closed on that. But what we would like to do and to reinforce at the EU level is that all the member states with the EU has one voice towards international collaboration. So that's what we are already putting in place, and we will continue to put in place. But to make a bit publicity for the EU, when I see the number of countries who would like to work with the EU on quantum technology specifically, it really reinforces the evidence that the EU is very strong in quantum technologies since a long time ago now, and we have recently had 2 Nobel Prizes in quantum with Alain Aspect and Antoine Zeilinger, and a lot of startups also. 25% of the startups in quantum in the world are in the EU. Well, everything is not pink. As I said, we are struggling with private investment, but not only the EU, from what I've heard. So the EU is strong in quantum technologies. Now we have to transform it in the real commercialization and what we called lab to fab and then fab to market with our international collaborations.
Thank you for that. I think we heard earlier a little bit about the impetus for the Global Forum that all of you are participating in today. Indeed, that the foresight of the members who instigated the forum and supported its launch had a lot to do with exactly this, the idea that you're going to need a values-based discussion at an early stage about key technologies and recognizing quantum as one of those technologies that was really ripe for that cooperation. So I'm afraid we will have to conclude our panel, but just as we do that, I think the bad news is that we can't carry on this conversation, but the good news is that lots of what you were talking about are the seeds that are going into our further sessions. So we'll get a chance to delve into them more deeply, and I want to recognize that around the audience we have the focus group experts that have been working with OECD and the Global Forum, so in that cooperation, bringing those minds together, helping inform the primer, and will also be participating through the day. So thank you all for your participation, and we'll move on to the next panel.
Thank you very much.